sick. It's degenerate and sick.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
I'm so wasted.
No.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Came, he saw, he died.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
What's up, everybody? Welcome, one and all. We switch our positions there to a special matinee edition of the DueDissidence podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
So thank you guys for showing up to this impromptu live stream event. This is the first day of the rest of our lives. We begin our rendezvous with destiny here, covering the Marianne Williamson campaign launch, the first of a million tiny steps towards sighing in exasperation that, it sucks she didn't win. Maybe we have to vote for Joe Biden anyway because maybe DeSantis is just too dangerous. It's too risky. The commenter here, this stream will get more views than Marianne will get votes. I got news for you, man. This stream might get more views than Marianne gets views. She has on her YouTube channel now, there are about 160 people waiting for her to go live, and we're at 74. Can we beat Marianne? Can you hit the like button? Can we actually beat the candidate? Can we get more views than the candidate, folks? That's what's at stake here. Hit that like button.
Ask not what Marianne can do for you. Ask what you can do to boost Crystal and Kyle's sub numbers.
Exactly. I'm surprised they're not doing it. I guess I don't know who else is doing a live stream coverage of this. I guess it is Saturday 2:00. So I guess people with lives are not watching YouTube right now. But we are on YouTube and we got 82 people in here.
Well, I think this is the time of day when Crystal uses Kyle as human furniture and calls him a little worm.
Well, maybe it's cutting into
that's what they have penciled in on Saturdays.
Are they live? I don't think anyone else is live. It's interesting.
I mean, we haven't seen all the rooms in that house. So
that's true. You don't know. You don't know. That is true.
Set up with some harem decor.
Exactly. Somebody's saying Russ is starting to look like you're, really blending in over there. He's got the wardrobe and everything. So you're in Goa now, correct?
I am in Goa. Yeah, it's very different. I had some people I was traveling with who traveled in the South who said that, if you go to these different parts of India, each part is like a different country. And this is, for one thing, they drive in a way that we would recognize, like lanes,
right?
Staying in them. They don't ride their horns quite the same way as they did in the places I was in the north.
Yeah, the first video you showed me, it was chaos. You heard horns honking constantly, dogs running out in the street. Yeah,
that's how it was everywhere I went.
Yeah,
and it's amazing because it's like New York. I always say if you learn to drive in New York, and then you move someplace else, it takes you about a month to change your driving style, and you have to. Because things that you do in New York that will not get you into a collision will other places, because the drivers are not expecting you to do those things. They're not expecting you to just cut them off like that. People don't drive like that other places. In New York, everyone's riding their brake because they expect everyone to drive that way. So India is kind of that on steroids, at least the parts I was in before. Because it's amazing that between the dogs and the cows and the scooters and the motorcycles and the trucks, nobody dies. Nobody dies. It's because everyone's driving that way, and that's why they ride their horns like that, because they're warning everyone that they're coming.
Cars coming.
So everyone's doing that.
Everybody's got to be alert.
Yeah, it's amazing. I saw one dog die in a truck stop, not because somebody didn't see the dog. The dog probably was looking for shade and went to sleep under the truck, and the truck ran over.
Okay, hold on. Sorry.
Pretty nasty.
What the hell is that noise? I can't take this. Hold on a second. You guys are not hearing that music, but I am, because I have the stream. God, this is offensive. I'm hearing this music. Oh, brutal. What the hell was that?
I don't hear any music.
No, you don't hear it because I had the stream open. But, her pre-show music is playing now, and there was no way for me to get it off.
Her pre-show music.
Her pre-show music just came on. It started blaring loud, and I couldn't turn it off. All right. I'm sorry. Gene wants to know what food is your favorite food.
What is that? What is that, a little Donovan she's playing?
Way
down below the ocean.
Yeah, now I can't even see it on her page anymore. Okay, live stream is here. Okay, good. Okay, I finally figured out how to mute it. Thank God. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know that was jarring for the audience. I just all of a sudden here, and like, what the hell is that?
No, we didn't hear it. Yeah, no, this is like a beach area. It's very hippie. Beautiful water. The water's like bath water, man. Like the water's like almost hot. Beautiful, gentle surf. The only problem is, all right, so you have all these restaurants and bars, at least at the beach I am. There are a lot of there's 100 kilometers of beaches. So there are a lot of, I understand the south of Goa is quieter, but right off the beach, off the main road, it's just a bunch of bars playing, which kind of ruins the vibe. So I went exploring and I found like a nice, calm little bay that doesn't have anyone blasting that shit. And I spent all day there. It was very nice.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, people are mentioning the Vanguard's not even live now. The Vanguard might be in the audience. You know, she has a small live invited audience. Maybe that's where all of her fans are. Maybe all of her fans are sitting there in person in Washington, D.C. But the stream should be starting any second. As we did for the State of the Unions, we do accept super chats. Tip jar is out. Super chats will be put up on the screen as super heckles during the speech. So if you have to respond to anything that Marianne says, as long as it is not something that'll get us banned or canceled, we will put it up there as a super heckle. We're doing a midday Saturday stream here. The more super chats we get, the more we can afford to do these streams. It's that simple, right? Like, I could have taken a delivery shift. I said, no, let's do a show. So the more donations we get, the more people we get signed up at patreon.com, the more we can do this kind of stuff. And it is our patrons and our subscribers and our donors via the super chats here that absolutely keep this show going. So those are super helpful if you would like to do that. But we are getting close here any second. I figured out how to mute this. I'm afraid to unmute it.
Don't forget, we have a tremendous opportunity here, guys.
Yeah, we got an opportunity here. As Kyle would say, we have an opportunity here.
We have an opportunity here to build up our subscribers.
Right.
And you really want to see what we will do with a large enough subscriber base that we can actually annoy the kind of people who are going to try to have us.
Exactly. All right. I just unmuted it.
We are
now I can't figure out how to mute it again. Why isn't it letting me mute it? Go ahead, Russell. The audience can't hear it. Yeah, that's the important thing.
This is not like late Soviet era Romanian apartment, Brooklyn. So people know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that is so offensive. That is such garbage. What kind of stream is she using that they can't mute the music? There's no volume on this? I'm trying to use off her website, not off her YouTube, because it'll look better. Jesus, that is really annoying. All right, she's getting ready to start.
All right.
5 minutes now, they're saying. Sorry, I'm trying to spare the audience having to listen to this. Okay, 5 minutes.
Keaton.
All right, we'll be on. She will be on in 5 minutes.
Do you think if I pour myself another cup of coffee, you can play nice for a couple minutes without me?
Sure. Yeah, we could do that. All right, folks. We are 5 minutes away from Marianne Williamson's big announcement here. Blar says she's pro-war. Yeah, so the way for anybody who is stumbling on this channel for the first time, since we're one of the only people going live with this, I would never support any candidate at this moment who is for the indefinite and sustained funding of the Russia-Ukraine war. Just full stop. That I am a single issue voter in that sense. Like, if you're for that, I cannot support you, period. Now, if she were to actually commit to a dirty break strategy, which she, sort of nodded to very, very vaguely on the original Vanguard interview, which got everybody's eyeballs on this story, then I would take the position that, hey, okay, I can't support you, but if you are willing to say right up front that you're going to be on the ballot in November with or without the Democratic ticket, then I would at least say, okay, fine, good luck. Like, I still couldn't support you. I couldn't support any candidate that at this moment supports funding the Russia-Ukraine war. Period. If she committed up front, not if they cheat, I'll do a dirty break. Because as we've said before, they're not going to have to cheat, right? So the if they screw me, I'll do a dirty break, no, that's a non-starter. If she were to commit up front, no matter what, to be on the ballot in November as a Democrat or otherwise, then I would at least say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to support you, but good luck. This here strikes me as an exercise for, as we were just saying, Crystal and Kyle to build their sub counts. That's all this really strikes me as. So anyway, that's my preamble to the speech. Now, Russell, can you play nice while I listen to this music here? Because this is really, it's incredible that there's no volume control on her browser thing, but there is no volume control. So go ahead.
So yes, I am loving this shirt, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it in New York, where people are going to have no idea what to make of it. I'll show you something else that I purchased. Very cool Cali statue. I literally came to India with 2 bags, and I'm leaving with 3.
Okay, hold on. I think
for everything that I am bringing back, mostly as gifts for other people. Very little of it for me. But I've been buying things in each city that I've been going to. All right, we got a super chat. I didn't vet this first. It better not be like a threat of assassination. Oh, Robert Kennedy. We're off to a bad start. Robert Kennedy Jr. was in New Hampshire Friday. Says he's thinking about a run. P.S. At least that would be kind of interesting. P.S. Kyle revealed on a past show he was a used car salesman. What an opportunity.
What an opportunity. I got an opportunity.
I like your style, Billy the Kid.
Then thank you for the $5, Billy. We appreciate that. All right, I found a stream on Twitter, which has a wonderful technical innovation called a volume knob. Does everybody hear that music?
I hear it now, yeah.
Good, okay, good. We're going to mute it.
Someone says they can barely hear me.
Yeah, your mic is a little low. That's just probably because you're... Just talk louder.
Well, it's where it is. It's
there you go. That sounds better.
Yeah, because I got a whole situation going on here, the way I've rigged this.
Well, we know you have a situation going on down there most of the time.
Basically, I've got this laptop propped up on 2 blankets, and I've got like the mic stand shoved under one of the blankets with the mic sticking up here. It's very MacGyver.
All right, well, don't worry about it. Just, talk. Is that Richard Lewis introducing? Who the hell is that?
Closer to it.
Yeah, or just talk louder. All right, let's go. We got action here.
Oh, beautiful.
Here we go.
For space.
All right, we're not playing that. All right.
Is that Richard Belzer? Didn't he die?
You mean Richard Lewis? He looks more like Lewis than Belzer.
Looks a little like both. It's like a cross.
Yeah. I should have brought my cough drops in here. My kids have both had a cold for a couple of weeks, and now I'm getting it. It sucks. Got a little post-nasal drip going on back there.
All right. JR Jr. says my volume's better.
Yeah, your volume is definitely better now.
Yeah, because I'm leaning closer to the mic. Yeah, it's not as close to my mouth as it usually is, just because of the nature of how I had to rig it.
You guys heard the "Oh Beautiful" thing? The America the Beautiful intro?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the sound is coming through, because I switched websites. I was going to do it off her website, but her website doesn't have volume control, and it would have just been blaringly loud.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No, it's good to have the right technology
we
here.
We really don't need to.
Elon really brought the cutting edge tech to Twitter in the form of volume knobs, volume controls.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, everybody, what happened? I thought when he whacked 5,000 people, Twitter was just gonna stop working. Isn't that what they told us?
Hey, so far, so good.
That was, well, they didn't tell you it was 5,000 people who worked in the DEI department.
Jesus coming out hot. This is a spiritual retreat. Yeah, he keeps going. He keeps singing. Yeah, we're not playing it because I think it is copyrighted. She might get her stream cut off because she's YouTubing this too.
It was one of those.
Yeah. All right, he's got this.
Yeah.
Where's Marianne? We want the president.
I almost bought a shirt with swastikas on it just to trigger ignorant people back home.
I think you were wise not to.
Nazi!
I think you made a good decision not to.
No, listen, I keep thinking.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
There was this incident at a summer camp upstate. I believe it was upstate New York, where these fucking idiots were triggered by 100-year-old long pre-Nazi cabin that had the swastika trim. And it was done as an Indian mystic symbol. And
yeah, but I mean,
They were
you know.
triggered by it. They listen. You go around India. If you were in the camps, you would better not come to India, man. If that kind of shit triggers you, there are swastikas everywhere.
Here we go.
Everywhere.
So much. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Thank you for coming. I know some of you actually came from somewhat far away, some of you from other places in the country. I also want to thank
some
those
of you are
who
channeling
are
spirits from other dimensions
who have joined me here.
Let us know if the volume's too low in the chat, guys. It
will
sounds
feel
good
like
on my end. Let me know if you need it boosted a little.
Martin Luther King said that our lives begin to end on the day that we stop talking about things that matter. And we are here today to talk about something that matters a lot.
He also said, beware the white moderate.
Now, we're all here because we care about this country, but we're all here, or at least many of us are, because we are upset about this country. We're worried about this country. We're concerned about this country. And we know that this country is plagued by many challenges now, not the least of which is hatred and division, which is greater than any of us have experienced in our national life. And it is our job to create a vision of justice and love that is so powerful that it will override the forces of hatred and injustice and fear that now plague us.
That is some prosperity gospel bullshit right there.
It's one thing, though, to say that we're here because we want to do that. It's another thing to know, how do we do that? And as one young man who might be in the audience today, with such youthful sincerity once said to me, he said, Marianne, what are we going to do? But what I've learned in my life is that the first question isn't always, what do I do? The first question is often, what do I need to understand? And before the United States or any of us can know what it is we need to do, we need to know what it is we need to understand. This country is drowning in information and starving for understanding. What we need to understand
not a super chat, but
is
well
the American
done,
story.
Well done.
And so just as when sometimes you're trying to understand your own life better by looking at your parents, at your grandparents, at your ancestors, it's time for us to look at the entire sweep of the American story, to understand better our past, that we might better understand where we are now. We need to know, what do we owe our ancestors and what do we know our descendants? And we can't know any of that until we see where we stand in the midst of the larger scope of the American story. Now, the American story began as an established nation in 1776. And in 1776, some very brave men, yes, they were very brave.
People have to get their stories
because if the
straight.
British had won the war, all of them would have been hanged as traitors against the King of England. 56 men who came together and signed a document that infused the founding of a nation in a way that had never occurred before, with the idea, repudiating the idea of the divine right of kings, repudiating the idea of an aristocracy, repudiating the idea that a few would be able to suck up the resources of the country and make everyone else nothing more than an economic serf. They repudiated that. And they declared that all men are created equal, that all men are given by God inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. They declare that it's the job of government to secure those rights, and that if government isn't doing its job, then the people have the right to alter it or to abolish it.
Okay, but like, we need to vote for who can beat Trump, right? Like, this is the problem. Like as much like I don't have a problem with most of what you just said, but it's where it's the crowd.
For out of the 56 men who signed that document, 41 of them were slave owners. So that dichotomy between the extraordinarily enlightened principles politically and enlightened principles morally, on which we purport to stand, is often at odds with forces within our country who usually, for their own economic purposes, have no intention whatsoever of seeing those principles actualized, and have proven in every generation, even unto ours, that they will go to the most violent lengths to make sure they don't. That, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, is the American story. That dichotomy, that split mind, which is American consciousness,
it is the story
into the cake.
Of wealthy white women accusing black men of mansplaining to them when they ask her hard questions.
What we are going through right now is baked into the cake here. It is no different than what other generations have faced, but I'm here to say to you, other generations stood up and pushed back, and now it's our turn. That's what we need to do. Yes, we need to identify the problems in our past, but we need to identify with the problem solvers in our past. We responded to slavery with abolition. We responded to the institutionalized oppression of women with the women's suffrage movement. We responded to the Gilded Age with the establishment of the labor movement and the New Deal. We responded to segregation with the civil rights movement, and it is our turn now. But once again, we have to understand what's happening here. Because for the abolitionists, the problem was the institution of slavery. For the women's suffragists, it was the fact that we didn't have women's suffrage. You needed to pass a constitutional amendment. We needed to establish the labor movement. We knew that the problem was segregation. And so you needed the civil rights movement. You needed civil rights legislation. You needed voting rights legislation. The reason we have such a problem today is because it is not one specific institution that plagues us and that opposes real democracy and that opposes the equality of people and of economic justice, that opposes the very principles on which we stand. It's not one institution this time. It's like an atomizer spray of economic injustice. It is over here. It's Flint, Michigan. It's Flint, Michigan over here. And it's waters drying up and aquifers and rivers drying up in the American South over here. It's mass incarceration over there. It's 68,000 people who die every year from lack of health care over here. It's no one particular thing. And so it's easy to gaslight us, and we're playing whack-a-mole. If we could just get that fixed, if we could just get that fixed. No, the opponent is not a specific situation or circumstance. The opponent is an economic mindset.
Right, a mindset.
The opponent is an economic mindset that has had its grip on this country for the last 50 years. Over the last 48 years,
you know, they'll come up with so many stand-ins for the word capitalism.
That has been transferred
you know,
from the
like
bottom
economic
90%
mindset.
to the
That's
top
the new one.
1% of people
Well,
in this country.
you know, her friend
country
Oprah
is now
would not
in the grip
appreciate
of an
any kind of
economic mindset,
systemic
whatever you call
change.
it. Some people call it
And
neoliberalism.
she's been
Some people call
peddling
it
the
free
idea
market
that
capitalism.
everything is your
Some people
mindset
call it
for decades.
crony capitalism. Some people call it hyper-capitalism. Let me tell you something. It's neither real capitalism nor is it a free market. It is a sociopathic economic system.
No, it's real capitalism. It is real capitalism. It is real capitalism.
that in policy after policy after policy, make sure that those who already have will probably get more, and those who do not have will have a hard time even surviving. I remind you that in the 1970s, the average American worker had decent benefits and could afford a home and could afford a yearly vacation and could afford a car and could afford to send their kids to college. Before the 1960s, tuition was free at state colleges and universities. That was then, and this is now. This did not just fall out of the sky. This is by design. And that design is now baked into the cake in this town where there are 3 times more corporate lobbyists than there are legislators in Washington, D.C. This philosophy, this economic mindset now has its grip on this country. It has its tentacles in every aspect of our lives. It has its grip on this government. This government is now more than not a system of legalized bribery. And this system will not change itself. The status quo, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else will not disrupt itself. That's our job.
Who's this all you speak of? You got a mouse in your pocket?
We should remember that Abraham Lincoln, standing on the battlefield at Gettysburg, speaking of the men who had died there fighting for the Union, said that they had given their last full measure of devotion so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the earth. It's time for us to look in the mirror as Americans and face the very painful fact government of the people, by the people, and for the people is perishing now. This government is now a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. Why does 1 in 4 Americans carry medical debt? Why is it that 18 million Americans cannot fulfill the prescriptions that are given them by their doctors? Why is it that 68,000 Americans die in this country every year for lack of health care? Why? Because we don't have universal health care, because just like every other advanced democracy. These positions, such as universal health care, such as tuition-free college, higher education, and tech school, such as free child care, such as paid family leave and sick pay, such as a guaranteed living wage, and such as a 21st century economic bill of rights. Those are moderate positions in every other country. Every other country has them. They are mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me when I tell you this. The American people have been trained to expect so little. The American people have been played. But this is a new time in America. And many people who realize, even if they themselves are not living at the effect of all of this entrenched injustice, know that the fact that that entrenched injustice exists is an unsustainable position. I'm so glad that President Trump did not win the last election. That means we didn't go over the cliff. But I'll tell you something, we're still 6 inches away from
we
that.
didn't.
Oh, no.
We are 6 inches.
Oh, yeah, no, we didn't go over the cliff.
We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our democracy. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our environment. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our economy.
What about
This
world
is not
war?
something where
What
you can
about
just tweak it
nuclear
here and
war?
have an
We're a lot
incremental
closer to that
approach there
cliff
and
than we
try to
would have
change
been
things
had
here
Trump
and a
won.
little bit there. Oh, that'll work fine for the 20% of Americans for whom the economy is basically okay. But those 20%, those of us who live on that island of 20% of Americans for whom things are basically
Thanks, James,
good,
for giving us a
are
little bit of your
surrounded by a
sharing some of your
vast
economic
sea of
mindset
economic
with us. We
anxiety
appreciate
and
that.
despair. We don't need any more evidence that this system is intrinsically corrupt. We can see it in the broken windows. We can see it in the shattered factories. We can see it in the addiction-addled brokenness of our fellow citizens. We can see it in the despair. We can see it in the addiction. We can see it in the anxiety. We can see it in the depression. And people in this town, if they will not care enough to solve the problems that produces all that despair, Half the people in this city don't even notice it. They are so buffered from the ravages of human suffering, they don't even mention the word poor. They don't even mention the word poverty, much less address its deeper causes. So some people in this city just don't even seem to care. Some people in this city, with some very brave exceptions, apparently don't have the spine or the moral courage to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me in there. I will.
I mean, look, I have always said we need to burn a little sage in the Oval Office. We want to clear up our bad karma as a nation. And I think it's just the person to do it. All right, Gene, I'm gonna get to you when she finishes up. I see
people are up for the
you're
job.
upset about
the American people are ready for the task.
Hit the star button.
The American people, look at all the
Next to
people
the comment,
protesting environmental injustice. Look at all the people who are trying to take stands against the injustices of things like Cop City, things like the deaths of environmental activists. People who are reforming and revitalizing the labor movement in this country. People who are showing new ways to do agriculture, standing up for indigenous rights, standing up for women's rights, standing up for gender liberty, standing up for all of the things that America should be standing for because it represents equality of economic opportunity, social opportunity, political opportunity. Yet the political system as it now exists is institutionally resistant to profound solutions when they do not serve the short-term economic profit maximization of large-form corporate systems, which are the donors and are the people who rule this town. And so it's not like we don't have the solutions. There are people in this town who have the solutions. There are people all over this country who have the solutions. But the people who are in power either don't have the solutions or do not deeply support the solutions. And people who have the solutions do not have the power. Once again, let the people get in there. We'll handle it from here.
I mean, she may get an SNL skit, but I think even less people watch SNL at this point.
And so I asked you to come here today and to join with me, both those of you who are here live and those of you who are on live stream. I have run for president before. I am not naive. I'm not naive about the forces which have no intention of allowing anyone into this conversation who does not align with their predetermined agenda. I understand that in their mind, only those people whose careers have been entrenched in the car that drove us into this ditch should possibly be considered qualified to lead us out of this ditch. But I reject that notion. And those pseudo-sophisticates who give us their PR about how they're the adults, you see, and people like myself and people like most of you should really sit down now.
That's right. Dump all those buzzwords.
No, ladies and gentlemen, the problem is not that it's complicated. The problem is that it is corrupt. And to those who feel that they are the adults in the room, they are the sophisticates in the room, and the rest of us should simply sit down and let them run things. Yes, where they have run things is to where we are now. To them I say, you are neither sophisticated nor a true grown-up. A real grown-up does not knowingly allow a child to go hungry. We should be making an emergency level just transition from a dirty economy to a clean economy, and an emergency level just transition from a war economy to a peace economy. None of those fundamental changes are going to happen, however, until and unless we the people step in. No one person can fix it, This is a time of collective effort. All of us are necessary in whatever way our heart leads us to serve. This is not a time, however, to just ask, what can I get? It's time to ask, how can I serve? I'm not saying that one person can fix it. I'm not saying even one president can fix it. But let me tell you something, a president who lays it down and says it like it is would do a lot of good. And so I'm here today, again, with my deep thanks for your coming here. I have a request to make. I, as of today, am a candidate for the office of President of the United States.
Hey.
And I am reminded and I am guided by the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who said that a necessitous man is not a free man. Not every chain is visible. It is time for us to release the shackles that are on the 64% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. It is time for us to do what other generations have done. And Franklin Roosevelt said that we would not have to worry about a fascist takeover, he said, as long as democracy delivered on its blessings. Given the economic situation of far too many Americans today, given the behavior of this corporate matrix, whether it has to do with insurance companies, big pharmaceutical companies, big oil companies, big agricultural companies, big food companies, big chemical companies, or the military industrial complex and the defense contractors that they serve, they have had their day. Corporate tyranny will end now.
Well, I mean, if she says so. It's about time. I've been
We
waiting
will not
for
be
that.
able to say to the American people in 2024 that we're helping you enough already and we'll help you more because things are basically pretty good. That will not be strong enough to push back the neo-fascist authoritarian threat that is in our midst. We need to remember what Franklin Roosevelt said. We will not have to worry about that threat as long as democracy delivers on its blessings. We don't need to do anything other than stand for democracy, stand for the principles of the Declaration of Independence, stand for the best within us. Reject within ourselves the nihilism, reject within ourselves the cynicism, reject within ourselves the personal anger. We must remember what Martin Luther King said. We must conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. And it is from that place that I request your donations, I request your volunteerism, I request your help. And I say to you now, again, hear me, it's our turn. Let's do this. Thank you very, very, very much.
I like that, Gage. Union boss and D's will make your boss use pronouns. Yeah, it's about the size of it.
All right. Well, that was mercifully short, at least. Excuse me. Few things. We'll address some comments in just a moment. First of all, that line about the military-industrial complex has had their day. I mean, if you feel that way, then why not a word on the Russia-Ukraine war? Like, why worse than not a word? Worse than not a word. Whenever you've been asked about it, you have supported the indefinite funding of the Russia-Ukraine war. So how can you come out here and say the MIC has had its day, right? When it comes to a, neo-fascist authoritarian threat, the idea that this program is the program that can beat back a neo-fascist authoritarian threat, quoting FDR, I've said that myself, that yes, the way to protect democracy is to make sure democracy works for everybody. That's fine. Sure. I didn't have an issue with most of the substance of that speech, and I know that quite a few of you guys in the chat, not a majority, but obviously, we have some people here asking, are we going to make her our whipping boy Gene, or some people in here who like the speech quite a bit. Look, that speech was lifted from the Bernie platform. A lot of us agree with a lot of the sentiments and theories of that speech. That's all well and good. That's never been my issue with Marianne. The issue with Marianne is, number one, the defining issue of the day right now when it comes to approaching a cliff is the nuclear threat. Okay, so if you support the continued funding of the Russia-Ukraine war, that is a deal breaker for me in terms of being able to support you. It's also a deal breaker in terms of realizing, as our friend Anis Shivani has pointed out, it is ridiculous to think that we can have a domestic agenda that realizes economic democracy and economic rights while we have this vicious militaristic empire around the world. Those things do not compute. Right. They do not compute morally, spiritually, or if that's too crystal-like for you, they don't compute mathematically. You can't have a military budget that's bigger than the next 13 military budgets combined and have enough left over to care for people and to actually provide economic rights to people. Those things just do not add up. And there was nothing in that speech about any of that. There was nothing in that speech about Joe Biden. I mean, she's primarying an incumbent Democratic president.
She did not criticize him at all.
She didn't mention him by name. The word Joe Biden was not in that speech whatsoever. Not whatsoever.
You're running against the Pepperidge Farm guy with Alzheimer's. You have nothing to say about that? You have not. He just released like 5 minutes of erotica about his boyhood nurse live.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's like the 18th century smut. Oh, my nurse was an expert glove fitter, fitting the hand to the glove as she whispered in my ear. Why don't you? You've got it. Joe Biden is a target-rich environment. If you're serious, I'll tell you what. Because we have a lot of people like, why are you going after her? Blah, blah. I mean, not a lot, but a few. And Gene's regular, so, you know.
Your mic is acting up again, but that's all right. I mean, this is just a live stream. We're not going to clip these anyway.
Well, I'm like holding it. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Is it better?
But yeah, let go of it.
Because probably I'm shaking it as I'm talking.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. We have enough problems with you being on the other side of the world. Don't manhandle the mic with your knees while you're talking into it.
All right. So I thought I was making it better. All right. Yeah. So Gene, yeah, it's okay. So here are the issues. All right. I'm gonna break them down for you, for anyone who's not clear on why we're skeptical of this campaign and why we're making fun of it. Because while some people, and maybe some who are not veterans of the two Sanders campaigns, see it as cynical or see it as nihilistic, it's quite the opposite. It's that we believe that serious political projects need to be undertaken. We do not believe that there are an infinite amount of human and financial resources to undertake them, which was the point that the RBN guys made. That was what he said to Marianne. Hey, we just did this with the Sanders campaign for working people to put in millions of dollars to a campaign. We don't have that money. So why should we back you? And frankly, you know, some people didn't see the RBN thing, want to know what the issue is. Okay, for me, the issue, really? You know, we had a segment a few weeks ago where we were talking about CRT. And, you know, it's not like, you know, we support the other side on that. We are truly anti-racist. And my issue with a lot of CRT is it seems like a lot of fake virtue signaling anti-racism. So for me, watching this rich white woman and the way that she reacted to being challenged by working class black men and projecting such disdain as how dare you? And I didn't think that was just race. I wouldn't even say it was necessarily primarily race. There was a big class element because any black people she deals with are Oprah Winfrey black people. She's not used to dealing with actual working class people, black or white. And when you saw how she reacted to that, it told you that her leftism is about as deep as a dinner plate. Okay, the second it got a little uncomfortable, she starts dropping the mansplaining bullshit on them and putting them back in their place. Right? So that alone, I would not support her after watching that. It's not, she says the right things and but somebody who reacted that way to just a little bit of pushback from working class people, even if in theory you gain power, you think she's actually going to do anything for working class people? She doesn't know working class people, and clearly she's not comfortable with working class people. She doesn't particularly like them.
Well, look, she said in the speech.
She's friends with Oprah. Okay. In the end, if she were in that position, as soon as she starts getting calls from Oprah about her policies, that's who her policies are going to favor. Not that she's ever going to get in that position. And that's a whole other issue. For people who really put it all on the field for the two Sanders campaigns, which were credible campaigns that actually had a chance at winning, the idea of getting sheepdogged once again back into this Democratic Party shell game it's a bait and switch. It's a waste of time for a working class movement to get involved in these kinds of efforts in the Democratic Party, especially when you're talking about such an unserious candidate. If you had somebody like a Sanders, at this point, I would still argue against it, because the DNC literally went into court and openly stated they do not feel that they have a legal obligation to run a fair primary. They literally made the argument that if they want to pick the candidate in the back room, they're allowed to do that, and there are no legal ramifications. At that point, to stay involved in Democratic Party politics is literally like knowing that they have a stacked deck at the casino and going and putting your money down anyway, thinking maybe you can win. What
exactly.
do you do?
And that, to me, is the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem. So Mike here says, you guys are happy or not having a candidate you like. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. The problem is when you run a campaign like this inside the Democratic Party, you are guaranteeing your defeat before you start. And more importantly than that, even, what you are also guaranteeing is that whatever momentum you have built up through that campaign will be then redirected towards the Democratic candidate in the fall. She is not going to do a dirty break. She didn't say so in this speech. She never said it to the Vanguard guy. She never said that anywhere. She even said here, a president who tells it like it is a good place to start. She's pretty much saying that this is a values campaign. This is a campaign to move the Overton window. That's basically baked into the premise of the campaign there. You didn't see any real political strategy on display there. And so if we had a candidate that let me make this really easy for you, okay? If she made that speech and she were running not as a Democrat, I would say, good luck. Now, I'm not going to support anyone who does not speak in a common sense way about the Russia-Ukraine war. Like I said, that alone is a deal breaker. If she spoke that way and she were for immediate peace talks there, then I would say, okay, good for you. I'm not against a candidate in the race. What I am against is another year and a half of this quote-unquote progressive left masturbating into a cup, thinking they are actually building a movement, only to be told for a third consecutive time in July of that year at the convention, well, the nominee is the centrist DNC pick, and the progressives have to fall in line, and then we all argue with each other like morons for the next 3 months. You're a sellout because you're voting for Joe Biden. Oh, yeah, well, you want Trump to win. Right. You're a closet this guy. I'm not into that. I'm not doing that again. I didn't do this the last time. I'm not doing that again. I have no interest in it. That is a waste of time. That is a waste of time. And as the RBN guys said very, very wisely, it's a waste of money and resources, which working people do not have in abundance. So that's the answer. No, I'm not happy that I don't have a candidate I like. Guys like Kyle are happy she's in the race now because they're thinking they can use her campaign as a built-in narrative over the next year so that they'll have something to talk about for the next year. Believe me, it'd be easier for us if we had a candidate. If we were in Kyle's shoes and we could say, okay, this is okay now,
so
everybody, here's the plan. Here's the plan. Yep. We're going all in for Marianne. Then our work is done for us. Half the show's already written for us. We just prop up her campaign and that's it. We don't have to think, we don't have to do anything. So it'd be easier for us to buy in. It's not easier for us to say this. Now what the fuck are we going to talk about this week? I don't even know. We got a show tomorrow. What are we going to cover? Right? You know what I mean? So it makes no sense. We're not against having a candidate in the race. If she ran as an independent and she were good on War and Peace, then I would say, of course, invest in that if you'd like, right? I wouldn't be shit-talking.
And you know what? There are a few things she could have done in that speech that would have made me say, hey, you know what? Let's lay off her. Not necessarily support her.
Well, we're gonna lay off her. She's not gonna be a big story for long.
Look. She could have. Well, exactly. She could have turned around and said, "We need to force a negotiated settlement in Ukraine." That would have made us cover her very differently. She could have said, "I have enough money. Don't donate your money to me. You know where I want your money to go? Here's a relief organization for the people of East Palestine. If you want to support me, support that." Okay, that would have made me think very differently about it. Or 3, if she had really viciously gone after Joe Biden in a way that would make her persona non gratis among her social set. The fact that she will not do that tells you that if, miracle of miracles, she had political power, she's not going to govern in a way that pisses off that set. If she will not attack Joe Biden in announcing her candidacy for the presidency against him, what on earth makes you think she's going to raise Oprah's taxes?
All right, when he's the president, like you're trying to primary a sitting president. You understand that the only chance you have at successfully primarying a sitting president is to get people angry at him, is to get people to vote against him. Like you have to gin up negative partisanship against a sitting president. You always have to gin up negative partisanship in a campaign. Studies show time after time, negative partisanship is actually more powerful when it's wielded in an effective way than love of your candidate. So the idea that you're going to be able to pull this off when you don't even mention his name in your campaign launch tells me this is about, to her building a name, and maybe she is sincere in the fact that she really thinks that this moving of the Overton window bullshit is actually doing something real. As we explained on last week's show, I don't consider it all that real because I think the voting public, when you talk about voters, you're already talking about 40% of the people. Most people more or less understand what's going on. Tucker Carlson blows out all of these other stooges in the ratings, and he has been an anti-war voice. This is not an endorsement of Tucker Carlson, but the fact that the number one show in its time slot for news, right, is the anti-war show, that tells you that most people are more or less with it on this. Polling now has dipped below 50% for the continued sending of weapons and money to Ukraine. And they're only polling the people who answer the calls. They're only polling the people who are relatively, active in this space, as if our quote-unquote democracy actually means something. Actual support's probably far less than that. So the problem is not that we have to move the Overton window amongst voters. The problem is you have to grow political consciousness and mobilization outside the electoral system. And in a few years, if that some of it trickles in, great. If this Shama Sawant workers strike back movement does organize itself into a political party, which I don't know that it will, I hope it does, that would be fantastic. But in the short term, you're not helping the left by entertaining some fantasy that Marianne Williamson is the next Bernie Sanders. You're just not. That's not helpful. That's not productive. It's not productive, and it makes you no less a nihilist than anyone else. These people like to dictate the terms of the game here. Oh, well, if you don't support a Democratic challenger to Biden, it's because you're a nihilist. No, it's actually quite the opposite. You're the nihilist because you're going to be the one, mark my words, sitting here in a year and a half telling us, oh, it sucks Marianne's not the nominee, but we just have to vote for Biden anyway. We're not going to be the ones telling you that.
Biden.
They are. The people propping up Marianne are going to be the ones telling you that in a year and a half. We're not. We're not. So who's the nihilist?
Yo, it's Biden or Beelzebub. Yeah, you got to vote Biden. What are you going to do? Listen, what you people are not thinking about, it's not just going to be jerking off in a cup in a nice doctor's office. This is jerking off in a cup in New Hampshire in the wintertime. Do you really want to be doing that? It's it gets cold out there in the winter.
It does. Mike, thank you for the $20. We appreciate it. Much happier to give you money than Marianne. Well, thank you, Mike. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I would argue maybe
we'll announce that we're running, and then we're going to ask Kyle why he isn't defending us from MSNBC ignoring our campaign.
Right. Why are they ignoring us? Why are they condescending to us?
Yeah, they're condescending because they're not covering us.
Exactly.
Well, we'll start with your $20.
Right. Joe Biden never remembers Pepperidge Farm. Yeah, it's true. Thank you, Virtuoso.
Remember when? Shit, I can't remember.
Can't remember. It's not a serious political project to run in a rigged Dem primary and not go after the party bosses. Dismantling the two-party scam is non-negotiable. I agree with you, and thank you for the donation. Yeah, that says it all. Like the idea that this is serious because
she's promised a dirty break, we'd have a different attitude as well.
Of course,
I might support that. If she promised a dirty break, I might support her campaign.
Right.
So it's not like we're unwinnable. We're voters. We have conditions which she is not meeting on any level.
I mean, I still wouldn't support a campaign that supported the funding of the Ukraine war. But if she promised a dirty break, I would at least wish her luck. I said, listen, I'm not going to support you, but I wouldn't be against people getting invested, because at least then there would be the idea that you're building for something that lasts beyond the primary defeat, and then who knows what political party picks her up. Like if the Greens were to pick her up and run her in November, then voting for Marianne might actually get the Greens to 5%, and then you might have federal funding. Like there would be some movement in some anti-duopoly direction. So you could say, okay, best of luck to you if you at least promised a dirty break, which she absolutely did not. She never did. That was always wish casting from a lot of progressive media people. The Vanguard guys started it because they asked the question. Okay, fair enough. Breonna Joy Gray picked it up. Breonna Joy Gray is smart enough to know she did not promise a dirty break, right? And a few others sort of ran with this idea. Kyle, Crystal, oh, she's going to do a dirty. No, she's not. She didn't even say the guy's name in her announcement speech. You think she's going to do a dirty break?
You have to remember this is a big part of my antipathy, because if you read between the lines, she is playing a game where she wants to go out there and play populist. She wants to dress up as a populist right up to the line where she's not going to get invited to Beverly Hills soirees anymore. She won't cross that line. And that's why she won't attack Biden. Because, oh, Marianne, she's so kooky. She had that presidential campaign. As soon as it turns into something serious, where she's like, really going after Biden, oh, she's a fiend, right? She's not getting invited to those things anymore. Not ever. They're going to Susan Sarandon her.
Of course.
Bernie doesn't want to get nadered. She doesn't want to get Sarandon.
Get Sarandon, right, exactly.
And as long as you're dealing with that limitation, what are we talking about? It's a vanity campaign. It's a fucking rich old white lady playing FDR. What do you want to waste your time with that for?
Right. No, I agree. Virtuoso, thank you for the other $5. I think Act Blue are selling info to candidates to hit us up for campaign money for unfamiliar candidates to compete with dark money. Selling info to candidates to hit us up for campaign money for unfamiliar candidates to compete with dark money. Interesting. I'm not on the Act Blue lists anymore. I haven't been on Act Blue in a very, very long time. I forget what nasty response I sent them, but it was enough to keep them away.
I have sent response. Sometimes I send responses that I imagine after the future fascist takeover, I'm in a cold cell being confronted with the response I sent to some of these emails. Wasn't it you who wrote in 2022 that Joe Biden should fuck his mother? Was that you?
Justin, thank you for the $10. I'd like to hear your thoughts on pursuing a Green Party strategy. What do you think of Bernie running with the Greens? Well, he's not. I mean, the Bernie thing is not happening. We'll talk about that tomorrow, where he punted on the Russia-Ukraine stuff for the exact reason that Hedges always talks about, which is he doesn't want to get nadered. But anyway, I don't want to step on tomorrow's segment. But yeah, so Sanders not running with the Greens. Hedges is not going to run for office. Who would you like to see? Look, according to Jesse Ventura, he offered himself up as the Green Party nominee last time. He said he didn't want to run in a primary. He wanted them to just clear the field for him, which is, slightly bizarre. But, his theory was he needs to catch fire all at once. That's how he won as governor in Minnesota. I came out of nowhere. I entered late before they could smear me. I shocked them at the last second. I caught them off balance. I got on the debate stage because I reached 15% of the polls, and I won. Look, Ventura is obviously not going to do it. He's teased it enough times and proved that he's not really serious about doing it. But I think Ventura would be a fantastic, fantastic candidate for the Greens. I think Ventura is one of those very, very rare politicians who's equally convincing in opposite roles. The guy is both a pot-smoking hippie and a Navy SEAL underwater demolitions expert. I mean, who has that kind of crossover appeal? Nobody.
You could have Woody Harrelson as his running mate.
Yeah, right. There you go. No, so if I had to pick, I still believe Ventura is great, and I love him, and I think he's a real force. He's proven to be a real force who can win outside the two-party system, but doesn't look like that's going to happen. In terms of a Green Party strategy, like we said earlier, I don't know if you just came in, but if Marianne were willing to commit to a dirty break out front and try to get on a third-party ticket for the fall, and the Greens were willing to have her on there, look, Marianne as a Green Party candidate, I'd absolutely vote for her because I would want to get the Greens over 5%. And I think a celebrity like that may have a shot at doing that. So, yeah, I'd vote for her in the general in that sense. I'm not going to support one of these other Democratic primaries that are just going to end in the same disappointment and, yes, bitterness, as they always do. Billy D, you guys sound like bitter children with Bernie trauma. She's closer to our point of view than farther from it. She is another spoke in a collective wheel. The point is, I mean, you can call it bitterness, but the fact is, we all know how this movie ends. So why act it out? And why donate money and time and investment and get people's hopes up for nothing again? That is neither optimistic nor pragmatic. And so, yes, I am bitter about the Democratic Party. I am bitter about Democratic primary politics. Guilty as charged, my friend. Overall, am I a bitter person who believes in disengagement and nihilism? Of course not. I wouldn't be doing this show if I were, right?
No.
Workers Strike Back, the Shama Sawant labor movement, is having launch events around the country today. If there were one in New York City, which unfortunately there is not, because New York City is unfortunately a Rockefeller Republican town where it's a lot more difficult to build labor power than a lot of people think. But if there were an event there going on right now, I wouldn't be sitting here taking the piss out of Marianne. I'd be there with a camera, and we put together a segment on it, and we would cover it in very optimistic and hopeful fashion. So no, we are not bitter. We are bitter about lost causes. Right? We are bitter about lost cause fights, but where there are actual fights to be won, of course, we try to win them, and we support anyone who does. And so when Workers Strike Back after this weekend, when they have hopefully some materials up from their launch, we'll absolutely do a segment on that. We'll do more. We hope to cover that very, very thoroughly for the next few years. So it's not bitter or nihilistic to understand, as Russell said, that the house is playing with a stacked deck. If you sit at the blackjack table once, you're a sucker. Twice, you're a schmuck. 3 times, what are you doing there? You got no one to blame but yourself at that point.
Yeah, and when we have the opportunity to platform workers, union members, the causes of the working class, we do it. We do it. We were out at Grand Central Terminal. Friend Robert Penner, doing some additional footage, approached the union members. We had them on. We've been covering those issues since we started. That's where our focus is. Now, I know when all this blew up with RBN, some people made the argument, well, why don't you just, and Crystal made this argument, well, leave us alone. You can do what you do, and we'll do what we do. And I agree with RBN's view. We don't have infinite resources. The Davos people that we're fighting, they have infinite resources. We do not. So we have to be strategic about what we get our people behind, what we get leftists behind.
Right.
These are people with jobs. These are people a lot of times without any savings.
Nick Cruz said he quit his job to work on the Bernie campaign. That's what he told Marianne. He said, listen, I quit I put a lot of blood into this,
Right. So he doesn't have the moral authority to question getting involved in your much less serious campaign. Right. And other people
as someone who upended my life to get involved with the Bernie campaign, I don't have the right to question whether or not this is worth it for me.
Right. How dare you come back to them with mansplaining? How dare you? And then to go on, oh, that was the most embarrassing thing I've ever been involved in. Come on, man. And we're supposed to get behind this person now? She showed it for me. That interview is a deal breaker right there. She showed her true colors. She showed how she actually interacts when faced with actual working class people. And that's your aristocratic mindset. You're never really going to help working people. You'll virtue signal about it, but you're never going to actually do it.
All right, I'm going to take some more super chats. Your mic is rustling again. I don't know if it's because of how it's situated, if the cable's screwed up, but see if you can make an adjustment.
I think it's against the computer. What about now?
Better. Yeah. So this Russell broadcasting from Goa, by the way, for those who are here for the first time. By the way, if you're here for the first time and you don't hate us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We knew that by covering the Marianne announcement, we're going to get some Marianne fans in here because they're going to want to watch the announcement. If you don't hate us yet. But if you don't hate us too much, hit that like button and please hit that subscribe button to help us keep doing what we're doing. Like I said, unless you're very offended by what we do. Jay the Informant, should Marianne Williamson attack the Progressive Caucus? Yeah, sure. Of course. But look, if she's not going after Biden, she's not going after any of them. I mean, you have to listen, you're running. Well, let's just accept the premise that she's serious about winning, which it doesn't sound like she is. That seemed like an issue campaign. It seemed like an Overton window campaign speech. But if you're serious about winning against a sitting president, you have to call him out by name in your announcement speech. This is very likely the most press you're ever going to get in the entire campaign. So if you don't get your digs in there, when are you? Thank you for the donation. Virtuoso, thanks for the $2. I think Jesse can rebuild the Nord Stream pipeline. Yeah, maybe. We go under there. I mean, he's underwater demolition. I don't know how good he is at putting shit back together, but it's worth a shot. Billy D, work to change
anything about putting it back together.
Yeah, I'm good at blowing it up. All right. Work to change the dynamic. Well, we are working to change the dynamic, but if you mean work to change the dynamic inside the Democratic Party, that's what the two Bernie campaigns were about. We tried changing the dynamic inside the Democratic Party. We tried it twice. How many times are we going to try it? We're going to try it 10 times, we'll be dead.
The squad.
Right, and the squad.
We went on.
Exactly.
Man, we've shown pictures, man. I was out there for AOC when she was a complete unknown bartender.
Exactly.
So we did all this.
Right, and at a certain point, how rational is it, or reasonable, or pragmatic, if you want to use that word? How reasonable is it to keep doing the same thing over and over again when you know the result and you're not seeing much progress on any of these issues that you are putting on the table or shifting the Overton window to shine a light on. I mean, come on.
I would say the squad has done more to damage the idea of reforming the Democratic Party than the Bernie campaigns did.
Right.
You know, we accepted the Bernie campaigns and we moved on to, well, we have to do what the Republicans did. We have to build from the ground up. We have to do it post Barry Goldwater into the Reagan Revolution style. We need to do it one election at a time and get people into Congress and local elections. And, you know, as soon as they got into office, Nancy Pelosi became Mama Bear. They got broken very quickly.
Exactly.
And it showed us what we're dealing with. And it's just not beatable with that kind of an inside approach. We no longer, I think I can speak for Keaton, we no longer feel that is a viable way of building working class power.
Of course. Yes.
I want to answer one that's not a super chat.
All right, let's get to our big money donor here first. Justin, thank you for the $50. We really appreciate that. That's very kind of you, and you gave us the 10 before, so thank you so much, sir. Thanks for sharing the true perspective on Jesse's approach to the Greens in 20. You guys got it right. Yep, no, I knew that. I was one of the people working with Jesse trying to get him to run with us. Would love to see him change his mind, but don't think he will. Well, once again, thank you very much for the donation. And yes, no, look, I understand how that all went down. I was following it very closely. I wanted him to run. I wrote an article on our blog that got a lot of traction, that got a lot of reads, explaining why he should absolutely run and he should absolutely do it. He didn't want to run in a primary. He wanted them to give him the nomination, which I understand is a bit bizarre. Now, I believe that if the alternative was Howie Hawkins, you should have just given him the nomination, at least call his bluff to see if he's serious. And I understand that, you know, if you have been working in the Green Party for a long time, that may have rubbed some people within the organization the wrong way. However, if you had a chance to put a star like that with that kind of crossover appeal and a proven winner on your ticket, I believe they should have taken it. And it sounds like you were trying to work with both Jesse and the Greens to work something out. So thank you for doing that. And, you know, I understand that him asking to basically be anointed head of the party is something that may have run some in the organization the wrong way. So I see both sides of that, but I have to rule, you know, on the side of when you get a star willing to run on the Green Party ticket who's never cracked 2%, you got to take it. Right. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Russell, go ahead.
After decades of trying.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
To do that. You had one shot at that. And you didn't take
I mean, Howie Hawkins was doing rallies in Albany, literally 8 or 9 people on a street corner.
Yeah. All right. So I want to answer this because I think.
Try that mic. That mic, I think the wire's crinkled because of where it's at.
You think so?
When you touch it now, try just holding it. Try just doing it MC style. See if that works. Can you try holding it in your hand? You can see how it works.
All right, hang on.
He's giving it a shot.
I gotta do this carefully.
All right,
I'm gonna knock like everything over. All right.
Not that loud.
Here we are tonight at the Velvet Lounge.
There you go.
I'm Russell, your host. Fly me to the moon. Okay, so Russell is very selective about where it's okay to invoke identity politics. All right, so I think that's I really want to address that because it's a good point, and I do feel like maybe I can be confusing on that stuff sometimes. That's what I meant when I said, you know, we're not.
All right, hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's worse. Put it back where it was. Sorry, folks. For those who are here for the first time, Russell's doing this from a hotel in India. So it's, you know, this is not our usual setup.
This is the last time, though. I'm back in New York on Wednesday.
Well, we have a show tomorrow. Don't forget.
Oh, that's right. One more time.
Second to last time.
Okay, so with identity politics, this is what I mean. I kind of touched on that earlier in setting up my comments about the RBN interview. And that's why I was talking about the segment we did on CRT. We're not anti-racism. We're anti-fake anti-racism. It's not that I don't think that there is racism. What channel you think you stumbled into here? The Stormfront Network? Like, that's not. Yeah, of course there's racism. Of course there's systemic racism. Of course there's unconscious bias. I don't believe that any of that is invalid. I think a lot of race hustlers, as you can term them, people like Ibram X. Kendi, people like Robin DiAngelo, I think these people don't actually want to solve anything. I think they want us fighting because that's how they make their money. They're not actually trying to bring us together. They are very actively trying to tear us apart because that's their business model. That is what I am reacting against very often when I'm talking about identity politics. And I also feel that, my travel reading has been Anand Giridharadas' Winners Take All. And it's really interesting. He spends a lot of time there.
You got that right here.
Talking. Oh, look at you. So maybe we can do one of our book reports that I want to do if you read it. He spends a lot of time. It's really insightful, talking about how wealthy elites, through organizations like Davos and the Aspen Institute and the now defunct Clinton Global Initiative, basically created this whole universe of very wealthy elites deciding that they, in an extra governmental way, without government, are going to decide what's best for people around the world. And they're going to use their great wealth to solve the world's problems. And what the book points out is that when you change the conversation about how to help humanity to a conversation that wealthy global elites working outside of democratic processes are going to be favorable to, you wind up not having any of those solutions include any policies that in any way would affect the privileges and power of those wealthy elites. And really, he's explaining the anatomy of neoliberalism. He's explaining how we got to a world where even governments cannot seem to talk about, say, helping the poor without talking in language of partnering with corporations and partnering with all stakeholders to ensure that we can create the jobs of the future. That shit all came out of these people. That all came out of Davos. And it is a big, big part of the reason that the inherent idealism of a generation of leftists has been redirected into niche identity politics issues, because that is what the global elites want you talking about. They don't want that idealism channeled into a class analysis. They don't want that challenged into thinking about poor children, right? They don't want you talking about that. I think in America, I'm not sure what the exact number is. I think it's about 20% of children live in poverty. Do you hear anybody talking about that? Do you see anyone tweeting about that? Do you see anyone mentioning that? We have been manipulated into discussing niche identity issues in place of discussing economic and class issues that can be resolved without going after the power and privileges of the elites that control our media. And at this point, for the most part, control our governments. So when I go after identity politics, that's what I'm attacking. I'm not attacking the idea that we have a long way to go in combating racism and systemic injustice, historic injustice. That's not what I'm commenting against. What I am commenting on is the fact that they've done a magic trick with us, where they've gotten everyone looking at what's in this hand to distract them from what's in this end. They've taken an entire generation that has never known a class politics and focused their desire to make a better world on divisive fighting that can never really be resolved, and they don't want it resolved, and it's not in their interest to resolve it. So that is why I'm selective about where I invoke identity politics, because, and as I said, I don't really think it was necessarily race driven. Marianne, I'm sure, gets along with Barack and Michelle just fine. They're not working class. I think there was more class in the way that she reacted to them than race. But it, of course, had some of those overtones by nature of the confrontation.
It's a pretty thorough answer for a non-super chat.
Hi, man. I think it's important to address because we get it.
No, I'm
we get
kidding.
into this territory a lot.
I'm joking with you, of course. All right, we're going to take some more chats here. Tusker, thank you, Tusker, for the $5. By the way, Tusker filled in for Russell when he had to leave last time. Another round of applause for Tusker. Great supporter and friend and occasional co-host here. We'd love to have you on as often as possible. If we could have a third party that could consistently get 10% in the general election, concessions could be one. Third party becomes more popular. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I said, look, if Marianne was serious about a dirty break and she runs with the Greens or whoever, I don't care where she runs, any third party that would have her, except with a possibility of the Working Families Party, because they're basically a front for the Democrats, which is why they would never have her anyway. Yeah, I'd vote for a third party that has her on. Justin, thank you for another $10, Justin. Thank you so much. Appreciate it once again. This is regarding the answer that I gave to the Ventura question. More complicated than that, Jesse used the threat of his job with RT to say he couldn't run. He wouldn't file to be a candidate. We couldn't give him the nomination when he wouldn't commit. That's interesting. You know, I put our email in the chat. If you send us an email, we might, if you're okay to come on and talk about this just as an interview, because that was a story I was very interested in at the time, because I saw it as a real missed opportunity for the Greens. I'd like to talk more about that. That might make for a good segment. So if you want to email us and get in touch, maybe we can do something about that, because I think that's interesting. But thank you for the donation. Meteor Dreams, thoughts about Nick Brana's latest grift with Jimmy. Yeah, with the sending out the emails saying Jimmy told him he wanted to run, but his wife doesn't want him to. And so, put up Twitter hashtags of Door24, why Jimmy should run for president. Jimmy Dore's not running for president. He's been pretty clear about that. He even said on his live stream when that came up in the chat, oh, did they say something that I'm going to run? He's not. Jimmy Dore's not going to run for president. Jimmy Dore does not want to be a government official. I think that's pretty obvious. So, I don't look. I'll give Nick the benefit of the doubt and say that's not a grift, but it's wishful thinking, shall we say? And I think trying to persuade Jimmy Dore to run for president is not any more useful than investing in Marianne. That's not to say I wouldn't vote for Jimmy if he did. Of course, I mean, we're ball riders here. We have to pledge our support to Jimmy, and that's the law on YouTube. but I don't think he's gonna do it. Right. Franco Espolito was on to Nick.
Balls like a Pilates class.
Yeah, right, exactly. Franco was on to Nick Brana's grift early. I don't know who that is. I'm not sure what you mean. But thank you. Thank you for the donation. Do we have anybody else here? Is anybody else? We have any other super chats? I didn't have my eye on the chat for a little while. I want to make sure we don't miss anybody. Okay, so I flagged that last one. Looks like we got pretty much all of them. So if anybody wants to give us one last super chat, one last question, if anything catches our eye, we'd be happy to take that. Oh, Red Z, sup, fellas. Sup, Red Z. That was an easy one. Thank you very much.
Sup.
Ball riders of the world unite. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tusker. All righty. Well, is that everything?
The name of our upcoming documentary.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Find it streaming on YouPorn.
Yeah, right. I wonder when StreamYard's going to get their YouPorn compatibility up. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
figure out whose genitals are whose.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Franco is Frank Analysis. So did Franco give us a comment there? Did I just read? Because I know Frank Analysis.
Is he saying we missed?
Is he in the chat? I know that Extra Bullet just said Franco is Frank Analysis. Did we read a chat from Franco, or are you just adding that? Sorry. Tyler Johnson for $5. Safe travels, Russell. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, Russell will be back. So you're back on Wednesday in New York?
I am back. I am landing, I think, at like 6, or I'm scheduled to land at 6:45 in the morning on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So you're basically gaining a day, right? Because you're traveling back in time 12 hours. How long is the flight? 20-something?
Yeah.
It's 20-something hours.
Dude, it's going to be crazy because I decided to do this side trip to Goa. It's going to be 2.5 hours from Goa back to Delhi. I got 3 hours until my flight. I'm going from Delhi back to Mumbai, back to the west coast of India. That's going to be another 2.5 hours. Then I have another 3-hour layover until my flight from Mumbai to New York, which is going to be like 17 hours. So it's like 28 to 30 hours I'm going to be in transit.
28 to 30 hours, but you're getting 12 of them back, right? Because you're traveling back in time.
Yeah.
So that might make the jet lag a little easier.
My flight to New York, technically from Delhi, is at 8 o'clock Tuesday night. And yet I'm landing at 6:45 Wednesday morning.
Got it. Franco Espeleta is Frank from Frank Analysis. Okay, understood. I thought we took a comment from somebody who we didn't know who it was, but no, we didn't. Thank you for clearing that up, Extra Bulla and Meteor Dreams. Yeah, don't mind me, just riding some balls over here. Absolutely. By the way, Tusker is going to be featured on Extra Bulla's show on Monday, so tune into that. I don't know what time you're going on, Extra Bulla, but if you want to post in the chat here, I'm sure a lot of our audience would be very interested to see your show with Tusker. We'll be sure to plug it again tomorrow because we're on live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, but I wanted to make sure I got a plug in there so I didn't forget. Tusker is going to be on the Extra Bulla show tomorrow using her DueDissidence fame, leveraging that.
We're going to, 5 years, we're going to see her on the Majority Report.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right. God damn it. We platformed that little traitor.
Yeah. We're on early today. Well, if John's just filing in, we came on to cover the Marianne campaign announcement. And we've been on almost an hour since she wrapped. So we are going to wrap. It's the middle of the night over there in India, and I'm sure Russell's got an early day. So I guess we'll sign off right now.
I'm doing like a nice day trip into old Goa and Panjim, which is the capital. You know, because the Portuguese were here, I think, until 1965. So there are churches. I mean, something you don't see in the north of India. There are these churches that were left by the Portuguese that I'm going to go check out.
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to a spice plantation. It's going to be a nice day.
Sounds fun. All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys very much. We had a great time in here. Great crowd, as always. Great chat, as always. Thank you so much for all who donated. Here, I'm going to give our patrons a featured scroll. Patreon.com/DueDissidence. It really helps us out. The more patrons we have sign up to support the show, the more streams we can do like this. Just an impromptu matinee daytime stream. We hope to be doing as many shows as we possibly can. We have some other projects planned for when Russell gets back that we will announce formally as we finalize them. But things are happening. A lot of things are happening. A lot of great things are happening. You're going to be very happy, I think.
Can I just say, JR Jr. is asking, will we react to Russell Brand and Bernie on Mars? We're covering it tomorrow.
We are covering that tomorrow. I didn't notice, I didn't watch the Bernie part yet, but I watched a couple of Russell Brand clips, and yeah, they are fire. I mean, they are phenomenal. And in fact, I was going to cover Russell Brand on Rogan because he was just on Rogan, but I'm only 20 minutes into that. I got to listen more to that. But it looks like, I mean, the stuff on Mar was just great because with Rogan, he's chatting with a like-minded person, so it doesn't have the effect of watching him just own John Heilman from MSNBC right to his face. Yeah, like that was just phenomenal. It's just so good. Like I'm anxious to do it. Like I almost wanted to do it today just because it's new and fresh, but it's like, no, we got to save them for the live shows because that's when the big audience is here and that's when people can interact and talk about it. But, you know, I'm chomping at the bit to do that. So we're definitely going to do that. I don't think we're going to do Bernie on Mar. I think we're going to do the Bernie on the BBC. sort of punting on the Russia-Ukraine issue because I thought that was pretty bad. Right. So we're gonna comment on that, and then we'll figure out there's a couple other segments that we're thinking of doing. We don't quite have our third segment finalized for tomorrow, but we'll get it finalized, by 20 minutes before showtime as usual. So that'll be how that goes.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. We always do, right? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We'll let Russell get back to sleep. We will see you guys back here. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button on the way out if you're not already subscribed. We have live shows every Sunday night and Thursday night. Sundays are typically 7 o'clock. Thursdays are typically 8. So we hope to see you back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Thanks very much, everybody. Good chat today.
Namaste.
There we go. Waiting for his send-off there. All right, it's back to sleep for Russell. I got to start cooking or doing whatever the hell I got to do. It's only 3:23 here. Still miles to go before I sleep. But thank you guys very much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.
Please clap.